for some of you on this webinar, you might be very familiar with armor, but for others, you might need a little introduction or reintroduction to armor. So at Armor, while we manufacture rust prevention and rust removal products, we know that our purpose is to protect your brand, your customers' brands, your parts and your customers' parts, and most importantly, your reputation. Well, and how we do it? It's with that very first bullet point you see on your screen, which is VCI, or Vapor Corrosion Inhibiting Nanotechnology. And you'll hear me call it VCI today. You might hear me call it rust prevention, or maybe I'll say the whole name, Vapor Corrosion Inhibiting Nanotechnology. Now on your screen right now, I think another bullet point that you might find most interesting is that second bullet point from the bottom, which is over 90% of Fortune 500 companies, well, they rely on Armor products. So here's how we're going to break the webinar down today. We're going to talk for just a few minutes in the beginning about the nuts and bolts of VCI. What is VCI? Then we're going to spend the bulk of the time on our top 10 on why it pays to know where your VCI comes from. And then last, we're going to wrap it up with an expose on the real cost of rust, and it's a video that we're going to watch just a couple minutes. So we'll go ahead and get started with that first bullet point, which is about VCI. So if you work with metal or your customers work with metal, you know that you only need these three things in order to have rust. You need metal, you need air, and you need moisture. And if you have those three things, then you are going to have rust. But you can prevent rust. And the way that we're going to talk about preventing rust today is VCI. So here's just your high-level overview on VCI. If you look at your screen right now, that bottle right in the middle of your screen, that represents VCI. And for VCI to work, it needs what we call a carrier. And on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see in this example, it's craft paper. And that craft paper is coated, sometimes we say in the industry, it's impregnated with VCI. And then you can take your metal part and you can put it into that craft paper, wrap it up, and you have rust prevention on your metal. Now here's another example. We've just switched the carrier of VCI. So we've swapped out craft paper and we've added poly, and that poly is extruded with VCI. So you take your metal part, you put it into that poly bag, you close it up, and again, you have rust prevention on that metal. Now, I love this image on your screen right now. I think it really helps to visualize how VCI works. So VCI is represented in those little white dots you see on your screen right now. And VCI is volatile, which just means that it wants to leave the carrier that it's in. It's attracted to the metal. It puts a barrier on that metal, and it keeps out that air and that moisture and those contaminants, those things that can cause rust. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how? Thank you, Chris. And a big thank you for myself for spending 30 minutes with us today. When we close out the webinar, a survey does come up. 1's the lowest, 5's the highest. We'd love if you rate the webinar. And then also, we'd love to hear from you any content. So anything that you want to learn about, just put it in that survey. So for myself, for my Chris, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.